Alarambal jate vartor narvore. In traditional Mandoa, in English, it means welcome and good morning, my brothers and sisters. I am Udesla Jorir. I am the co-founder of the Way of The Mandalore Religious Movement. We are a registered domestic nonprofit in the state of Ohio and a legal federal 501c3 private charity. As usual, before we begin, we need to make it clear that this video and other social media posts are for religious educational purposes only. No one involved in the social media pages or multimedia messages are lawyers, and nothing in this or any other message or social media post is to be taken as legal advice. End of disclaimer. Let's move on. Welcome once again to the Way of the Mandalore Religious Movement. If you are so inclined, please consider giving us a like and a follow here and on our various social media pages, such as on Facebook, The Way of the Mandalore, the Mandalorian Religious Movement. We are also on Instagram and MeWe and have a very limited Twitter presence. Links, of course, are in the description. Please consider donating to the Patreon here so we can continue to produce these multimedia messages and spread the way to those who are willing to hear it. Our last sermon message, we continued our discussion regarding a Mandalorian's conduct with others, with the fourth tenet and a Mandalorian's requirement to defend those who cannot defend themselves. In this video, we're going to be shifting focus a little bit to a Mandalorian's articles of faith. Tenet 5, weapons and armor are holy. A Mandalorian's weapons and armor must be treated as holy articles of faith. Now, what does this mean? The weapons, accessories, and armor of the Mandalorian are not simply gear or equipment. They have spirits that walk with us through life as both companions and guides. It is not enough to carry the weapons and armor. The Mandalorian must maintain them in good working order. The act of cleaning and maintaining them is an act of thanks and respect to the spirit of that article. Likewise, donning and removing one's weapons and armor must be done with respect, giving thanks to the Spirit for helping you to protect yourself and others. Let's begin by making this point clear. This is not a metaphor. This is not simply referring to an individual's personal preference regarding the weapons or the armor that they choose to own. Some have tried to make this tenet simply another way of saying you should be carrying something that's comfortable for you. To be fair, that's part of it, but it goes beyond that. Yes, we believe that both weapons, specifically firearms, and armor have actual spirits that indwell these items starting at the instant that forging or manufacturing begins. This might be a hurdle that some people have a hard time accepting or wrapping their head around. But this is not a new belief, or really even an obscure one. Though in this modern world it's been largely diluted, the influence of this belief can be seen to carry over in the practice of naming weapons, or even just referring to them as he or she. This belief regarding the spirits of weapons and armor dates back to even the earliest and most primitive time in our history. From defense to hunting to warfare, even to symbols of authority, this belief has permeated cultures around the world for thousands of years. In many cultures, weapons and armor were not merely tools, but were considered sacred objects with spiritual properties. The ancient Greeks believed that their swords and spears were blessed by the gods, while the Vikings believed that their weapons were imbued with the spirits of their ancestors. In Japanese culture, samurai swords were believed to contain spirits or kami, and the swords were often given names and treated with great respect. This spirit is said to imbue the wielder with strength, courage, and clarity of purpose, and is a powerful symbol of protection and defense. Many Native Americans held a similar belief. According to their belief system, weapons should be treated with respect and care, and their spirits should be honored through rituals and ceremonies. Native American warriors often painted their weapons with symbols and images to honor their spirits and to protect them in battle. For example, The Hopi people of the American Southwest believe in the Katsunim, or spirit beings, who represent various aspects of the natural world, including animals, plants, and even celestial bodies. The Katsunim are believed to offer protection and healing to those who honor and respect them. In Hinduism, the belief in weapon spirits is also present. According to Hindu mythology, each weapon has its own deity, which is responsible for its power and effectiveness. These deities are worshipped and honored through rituals and prayers, which are believed to help in the purification of that weapon spirit. In African traditional religions, weapons are often seen as sacred objects, and their spirits are believed to have the power to protect the community from evil spirits and other dangers. The spirits of weapons are often honored, again, through rituals and offerings, which are believed to help in strengthening the weapon's power and effectiveness. The belief in the spirits of armor is often expressed through the use of masks or other ceremonial objects. These masks are often worn during tribal ceremonies and festivals, and are believed to represent various protective spirits or deities. For example, the Chakwi people of Angola and Zambia use masks to invoke the spirit of their warrior ancestors, who are believed to offer protection and guidance to their descendants. Similarly, the Dogon people of Mali use masks to represent the spirit of the buffalo, which is associated with strength, resilience, and protection. The belief in the spiritual power of weapons continued even into the Middle Ages, where it was believed that holy relics such as swords, shields, and armor were imbued with certain supernatural powers. These relics were often kept in churches and monasteries and were believed to offer protection against evil and bring good fortune. In Christianity, knights often carried swords with religious symbols engraved on them, such as the cross or the image of a saint. Similarly, in Islam, warriors would carry weapons inscribed with Quranic verses or the various names of Allah to protect themselves in battle. The belief in weapons having spirits also extended to traditional practices such as hunting. Many indigenous cultures believed that the weapons used for hunting had to be blessed or purified before use to ensure the success of the hunt. This practice was not only meant to please the spirits of the animals being hunted, but also to prevent harm to the hunter. So as you can see, this belief has been a part of many different religions all over the world for a very long time. But what exactly does this mean for us as Mandalorians? For one, it should be clear that these spirits are companions and guides, not deities. The spirits of our weapons and armor are to be honored and respected, but we do not worship them in the same way one would worship a god in other religions. Part of that respect and honor is demonstrated in how we put on and take off our daily weapons and armor. Now, we are required to both express our thanks to the spirit and ask for its continued protection and guidance whenever we don or remove our holy articles of faith every day. But this doesn't have to be any kind of grand ceremony with a long and rehearsed liturgy or follow any specific rite or formula, unless that's what you're comfortable with, of course. If you want to have a more formal procedure or to have a more ceremonial feel to this practice, that's completely up to you. Likewise, if you just want to say a quick thank you, stay with me, to your firearm and armor every time, that's acceptable as well. The intent behind the practice is what matters. Another important way that we demonstrate our honor to our weapons and armor is to maintain them in good working order. Now, no one should be expected to keep them sparkling and pristine as if they've never been used. Pistols are going to show holster wear, cuffs and van braces are going to get scuffed and dinged, rifles and magazines are going to show wear from loading and releasing, and so on. What is meant by this is that all of our weapons and armor, including those we don't necessarily wear or carry on a daily basis, are to be treated with respect and not allowed to fall into disrepair or simply tossed aside when not being worn. This doesn't mean you have to set up any sort of altar for their storage or anything of that nature, unless you so desire. Just that they are treated well and with respect at all times. The belief that all weapons and armor are indwelt with the spirit does not mean that every malfunction or failure is to be treated as any sort of divine intervention, or that the spirit is somehow weak or impotent. Now, if you've been watching these videos, you may recall in the video for Tenet 2, there was a reference to a discussion involving PPE, personal protective equipment. And as previously stated, workplace-style PPE is not sufficient to keep the second tenet, but that the issue would be addressed further when we reach Tenet 5. And here we are. Not only do we believe that all weapons and armor have a spirit that indwells in the item at the moment forging or manufacturing begins, we also believe that other items not intended to be weapons and armor can become temporarily endowed with a spirit in certain situations. So a grinding disc breaking and serious injury being avoided due to safety glasses, or you scrambling for a rock or a stick during a fight, those would be examples of that scenario. And we all know the trope of someone being surrounded by an overwhelming number of enemies, looking around for anything that they can use, suddenly discovering a rock or a pipe or something similar. That is another example of the temporary spirit calling out to the person in danger. In a situation like that, the spirit is a temporary presence that then moves on afterwards. This is not something to be expected or anticipated in every possible situation, of course, but it is an example of something that we believe can happen. In these troubled times, when the world is filled with conflict and strife, it's easy to lose sight of the true purpose of weapons and armor. But we must always remember that they are not meant to be used as tools of intimidation and death, but rather as instruments of protection and defense, giving honor to their spirits as holy and sacred articles of our faith. May we always strive to use our weapons and armor with wisdom and honor, and may their spirits in turn continue to walk with us through life as companions and guides. With that, we close out this brief overview on the fifth tenet of the Way of the Mandalore, weapons and armor are holy. We do hope that you learned a little bit more about who we are and our religious beliefs. In our next video, we will be covering the sixth tenet, train both body and mind, where we will discuss a Mandalorian's requirement to actively seek to improve themselves. Until next time, Vorentje, Manduare, Balkuyer, Maruchik, Ibik Runi. Thank you, brothers and sisters, and be safe. This is the way.